You've probably heard how expensive babies can be, especially that first year. But like anything in life that affects you financially, there are steps you can take to avoid going into debt and to set yourself up financially for success. Hey everyone, it's Courtney. I do all things pregnancy, motherhood, and lifestyle on this channel, and I do it all on a budget. I'm super excited because today I'm going to be sharing with you my first video in my Baby on a Budget series. In this series, I'm going to be walking you through everything from finding out you're pregnant, to creating a budget, to finding out expenses, creating a baby registry, and everything in between, all the way up to the first year of your baby's life. My goal for this series is just to make the process a lot easier, and I want to help you save some money. Having a baby on a budget is possible and doable, and I want to share all my tips and tricks on how you can have a baby on a budget. In today's video, we're going to go over the 10 biggest expenses in baby's first year. I'm going to show you how you can save thousands of dollars, how I personally only spent $1,500 on my baby's first year. The way I'm going to break this video up is I'm going to tell you what the expense is, and then I'm going to share with you what the average cost is, and then I'm going to share with you what I actually spent. And then I'm going to be sharing with you some tips on how to save in that category. For the average amount, I'm going to be using the Baby Center cost calculator. I will have that link down below. It's a wonderful resource where you can just plug in amounts in each category and it will tell you how much it's going to cost. I'm also going to share with you if it's an ongoing cost versus a one-time cost. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first and probably the most expensive cost is childbirth. And before I get into numbers, this is so specific to your insurance or lack of insurance, and I can't give a very precise number as far as an average, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a range so you have somewhat of an idea for this video. And my number one tip would be to call your insurance as soon as you find out that you're pregnant and get an idea of how much you're going to be paying out of pocket. This includes the prenatal visits as well as the childbirth and the postnatal visits. Calling your insurance and just getting an idea up front how much you're going to pay gives you an opportunity to incorporate that into your budget and to make sure that you have enough money for this expense. This is a one-time expense, but it is a hefty one-time expense. The last thing you want to deal with after having a baby is a huge hospital bill, so I would just highly recommend calling your insurance. You know what you're going to be paying ahead of time. As far as cost goes, if you are insured, it's usually around $10,000 if you're having a vaginal birth without any complications, all the way up to $30,000. And if you're uninsured, it could be anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000. So like I said, the numbers are very specific to your insurance, so make sure you give them a call and you'll have a better idea. For me, I ended up spending no money out of pocket. My insurance covered everything, and I was able to have all my prenatal visits as well as childbirth and postnatal visits completely covered. So my expense for this was zero. Number two is housing. When you find out that you're expecting a child and you're living in a studio apartment, you might have to upgrade your space and get a bigger home or bigger apartment. I know this might not always be the case. In my situation, we actually ended up downsizing and selling our house and living in an RV for our daughter's first year. We actually ended up saving around $12,000 by not having a mortgage and not having a house for our daughter's first year of life. But I know that's not realistic for everyone. So my saving tip would be don't add any more financial costs if you don't have to. The baby's first year, really they don't need a lot of space, so you have a little wiggle room before you have to necessarily get a bigger place and expand. So I would just recommend making whatever your living situation is right now work in your favor. That will save you so much money, and it's something that you don't have to worry about in the first year on those added costs. Number three is childcare. If you plan on going back to work after maternity leave, you're gonna have to find childcare. I was lucky enough to where I didn't have to work for the first year of my daughter's life, and I still continue to be a stay-at-home mom, and because of that we saved so much money that way. My husband does work full-time, but the first year of our daughter's life we were both with her traveling the US in an RV, so we did not have to pay for childcare at all. But if you are someone that has to have childcare, just know that right now around $1,500 a month is the average cost. So that could put you around $12,500 for 8 months of childcare. And my savings tip for you would be look for childcare before you have the baby. I have heard that it's very difficult to find childcare, especially last minute. So the earlier you prepare for that and shop around, the more you're gonna save, and then the less stress you're gonna have to worry about after the baby comes. Also look into the price difference between a daycare, a babysitter at home, as well as a nanny. That can vary your price drastically. I would also recommend checking with your work. They might have some kind of program or discount or something available for childcare that could save you a lot of money. Childcare is an ongoing cost, so you have to factor that in well past the first year, but as far as the first year goes, expect to pay around $12,500. If you are a mom and you have tips for childcare and like finding it and anything like that, comment that down below to help out other moms. Since I am a stay-at-home mom, I'm not very knowledgeable in that department, so I would love to know if you have any tips and advice. Number 4 is food and feeding. This is an ongoing expense, so you're gonna have to factor this in well after the first year, but we're just gonna go over just the first year expenses. For food and feeding, in the first year, your baby is either gonna be breastfed or formula fed or both. There's costs associated with both of these. The cheaper and almost free option would be breastfeeding, and for the formula expense for a year, you should expect to pay at least $2,000. Around 6 months, you start introducing solid foods to your baby. The average cost for solids every month is about $150. So if you're factoring in 6 months of the year, that puts you at around $900. For me personally, I only spent about $30 a month, which was like $180 for the 6 months to total out the year. So with me breastfeeding as well as introducing solids at 6 months, that put my total at $180 for the year. My savings tip would be breastfeed if you can. I know sometimes it's not physically possible for some moms, or you have to go back to work and you just don't have the option to breastfeed, but that would be my biggest savings tip. My other savings tip would be to make your own baby food. It's amazing how expensive the baby brand like jars and pouches and everything at the store is compared to just going down the other aisles in the grocery store and getting fresh produce and making your own food. It's significantly cheaper. So I would highly recommend just making your own food and not necessarily just buying all the baby brand stuff, because 9 times out of 10 they're probably going to be filled with a lot of sugar and preservatives. If you do plan on formula feeding, I know there are a ton of coupons and program assistance out there, so just look up in your local area and see what's available if you do plan on formula feeding, and that will save you some money as well. Number 5 is healthcare and insurance. This is specifically for your child. After your baby's born, within 24 hours and 48 hours, they're already visiting the doctor for well visits. Your baby averages 6 baby well visits for their first year of life, and this could easily put you at $1,200. Like I said, my insurance covered everything, including when we put our daughter on it, so my cost for this was $0. Again, call your insurance to find out exactly what's covered and how much you're going to be paying your baby's first year. Number 6 is diapers and wipes. This is definitely an ongoing expense, at least for several years into the future. And the average total for diapers and wipes the first year is around $1,080. I spent $646 total for diapers and wipes. My biggest savings tips when it comes to diapers and wipes would be to buy in bulk. I had a Costco membership my daughter's first year. It almost saved us half of what the average cost is because we were buying in bulk. We'll add that cheaper isn't necessarily better. There are several wipes and diapers out there that were way less expensive, but the quality of them were so bad that I ended up actually using more wipes and more diapers, and it ended up costing just as much, if not more, than just spending a little bit more on ones that had better quality. Number 7 is clothing, and this is definitely an ongoing expense. This one is never gonna go away. Your kid's always gonna need new clothes because they're gonna constantly be growing. The average is around $60 a month, which equals out to $720 a year in baby clothes. Which this number depends greatly on your income as well as what you're willing to spend, but that's just what the average is. For me, I only spent $70 total on my daughter's first year. How I managed to do this is my first savings tip: buy secondhand. Babies grow so quickly, you don't want to spend a ton of money on brand new outfits. Yes, getting that cute going home outfit as well as some photo shoot outfits are a must, I agree. But when it comes to just the day-to-day, I would highly recommend just going on your marketplace or buy, sell, trade, or Craigslist or whatever you use, and just get a bunch of secondhand clothes. I was lucky and I was able to get my daughter's entire first year of clothes for $60. That last $10 that we spent were on shoes for her when she was a little bit older, around 11 months. And another savings tip would be whatever you do get for clothes, whether it's new or used, save it if you plan on having multiple kids. Obviously, if it's just falling apart and has a ton of stains on it and it's just really gross, you know, donate that or get rid of that. But if you plan on having multiple kids, hold on to those clothes because it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run, especially if you're buying new. Number 8 is your nursery/registry. So this includes your furniture and your gear for your baby. This is usually a one-time expense, but can be a very expensive one-time expense. The average price for a nursery/registry is around $4,165. I personally spent $573 total. How did I manage to save this much? Well, first thing, I didn't have a nursery, so I didn't have to buy all of this furniture to fill up a room because we lived in an RV. We didn't have the luxury of having space. So anything that we did have had to have a specific purpose or it just didn't go in the RV. My savings tip would be to get as much as you can secondhand. I'm not saying that you should get secondhand for everything, especially if you plan on having multiple kids. I would invest in some really good pieces. My next savings tip would be to not do a nursery right away if you don't have to. When you have a nursery, your instinct is to just fill that up with furniture and just a ton of stuff that the baby just doesn't need right away. Like I said, I didn't do a nursery and it saved us so much money. And I am currently 25 weeks pregnant, so we are expecting another baby and we are in a house now, but I still don't plan on doing a nursery right away. Until she's old enough to sleep in her room by herself, I just don't see the need. Another savings tip would be to prioritize need versus want. This is very, very difficult, especially if you're a first-time mom. It's super exciting. You want to get all the gadgets, you want to get all the cute little outfits, but make sure you're actually prioritizing what you need over what you want so you don't have any unexpected costs down the road. As far as creating a baby registry, I have a ton of videos coming your way in this Baby on a Budget series, so make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss any of those. Number 9 is toys and books. This is definitely an ongoing cost. I think up until when they graduate high school, expect to pay between $30 and $50 a month. As far as how much I spent in this category my daughter's first year, I spent a whopping $0. How did I manage to do this? Like I said, we lived in an RV, so we didn't have a lot of space. And honestly, our daughter loved playing with our dog's toys and playing with just household items more than anything else that we gave her. Also very lucky to have family in our life that would constantly get her books as well as little toys here and there. So she wasn't without toys or books for an entire year. She definitely had them. We just ended up not having to spend any money on that. So my savings tip here would be, again, get secondhand. Secondhand books especially, you can find at secondhand stores, Goodwill, anything like that for very, very cheap. And babies, they like to tear things, they like to slobber all over things, so you don't want to really invest in brand new books unless you're okay with them getting a little bit slobbery and beat up. And if you are going to invest in some toys, I would highly recommend getting ones that are teaching, so more like Montessori kind of style. Those will grow with your baby, and I found those kinds of toys and sensory toys were way more beneficial for our daughter than getting something electronic that lit up and caught her interest for like 5 seconds. Number 10, I feel like, is one that's commonly overlooked, or at least not factored into your budget when you find out that you're pregnant, and that is photo shoots. What I mean by that is maternity shoots as well as newborn photos. The average cost for a newborn photo shoot is anywhere between $100 to $300 an hour, and for maternity photos, it would be anywhere between $100 to $500 an hour. These are memories that you should definitely capture. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this, but there are some savings tips that I would like to give you. The first one is, in which I did, was take your own. Maternity photos, it could be a little bit harder, especially if you want your spouse in them. And when it comes to that, I would just get a tripod or set up the self timer on your phone or your camera, and it works like a charm. As far as newborn photos go, I had a lot of fun taking my daughter's newborn photos. We did a whole photo shoot. We took the whole afternoon, so we didn't have to worry about paying someone by the hour, and it was a ton of fun. So if you can take your own, that will save you a ton of money. If you're not the type that wants to take photos, then I would just highly recommend getting a friend or a family member to take them for you. If you are looking to get professional ones done, I would highly recommend looking on Facebook groups, especially in your local area. There's a lot of photographers out there that are just looking to build their portfolio, so they will offer you a discount or sometimes even free photo sessions. And if you do plan on using a professional photographer, just make sure that you're aware of the cost ahead of time so you can budget appropriately. So that completes the list for the 10 biggest expenses in baby's first year and how you can save thousands of dollars, and how I was able to save so much money and only spend $1,500 in my baby's first year. I'm so excited to be starting this series, and I can't wait for the next video. Stay tuned for that later this week. I'm going to be sharing with you some fun things that you can put on your registry that you didn't know that you could. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss that video. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!